what the fuck just happened? We can save this shit? Who wrote this stuff? Okay? Deadpool! Okay, yeah, it's the last day I'm at Magfest. We're back at Matt's place, and we went to finally see Deadpool, and it was good.
It was good.
It was really good. It's like, I can't imagine a better and more on-point Deadpool movie than this. Admittedly, I'm not a big comics reader, so most of what I've seen has been internet meme stuff and what other people have told me about the character and what's been informed in cartoons and crap, so I'm not big on Deadpool, but I think after this I'm going to try and track down whatever omnibus they have for his stuff, because I definitely want to see more of him now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, the movie was just so on point with the character and stuff. Like, Ryan Reynolds was actually backed up what he was saying this all this time during the promotions and like interviews and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Like even the trailers were not deceptive on the content of the movie. They mostly focused on the beginning and end, so you know it didn't spoil what the majority of the movie was about, like a lot of trailers these days do.
It gave you enough to get an idea of what the movie was, but it never like went out of its way to like spoil every single detail that you were gonna see.
Yeah, and it was like has also been passed around. It's a very soft R rating movie. It's like it has topless scenes, it has sex, it has gore, it has swearing,
it has a naked Ryan Reynolds in it.
Yeah, and it has bare asses a lot, and you know toilet humor. But it's even with the toilet humor, it's tasteful and situationally appropriate. It's not like shoving in there just to have it. No, we have the Deadpool jokes for it. The breaking of the fourth wall, the work with a mouth, the sarcasm and pandering and annoying people stuff to take up those. And even then, they're appropriate to the character and the situation.
Yeah, like, one of the things that the movie did correctly was, like you were saying, any, like, gratuitous violence that you see, any nudity that you see, it's all very tasteful. Like, the R rating is only there for them to say more curse words and get away with, like, the violence that makes Deadpool...
You know, get away with having it and not watering it down so that, oh no, this is why it's PG-13. Ha ha ha! Yeah. It's not like that stuff.
Yeah, like, if it was PG-13, this movie would not work.
Yeah.
Because with Deadpool, there's just certain things you have to do with a character that you cannot do with anybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can make a PG-13 X-Men film, or you can make an R-rated one. But with Deadpool, it had to be R, you know, because that's where his wheelhouse is. Cursing, telling jokes, and being surprisingly human. Like,
yeah. I mean, a lot. Why I like Iron Man 3 is that it's a very human movie, and but you kind of have to see Avengers, and that's where you kind of have to start having it has to follow continuity stuff for the Marvel movies that become more prevalent.
And I liked how they showed, like, Deadpool wasn't just all wisecracking jokes and stuff. Like, when he's diagnosed with cancer, like, you could see that, you know, pain.
The shock of it.
Yeah, the shock, the pain, like, everything he does was not because he was trying to be a selfish prick, but because he, like, just genuinely cared that much. He thought, like, I have to get away from my awesome girlfriend because if I stick around, then I'll probably drag her down the path.
Drag her down with him as he's dying.
Right, which he did not want to have, you know, show her.
So she'll hurt, but it will take less of her in the long term.
Yeah, because he was right. When you're diagnosed with cancer, it not just affects you, but it also affects the people around you. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
And my dad was, and my aunt were both diagnosed with cancer. It was at the treatable surgical stages, so they both made full recoveries. They have had no remission in it, so they were very lucky about it. And they pretty much admitted it after the fact, after it was all dealt with and they were in recovery, or you know, right as they were about to get it taken care of. So we didn't have as much of an impact there, but it's like to go from completely fine and no, you haven't been checking up on this. This is totally terminal. That's like like Wade
Wilson in this movie gets like all the cancer. Like he gets cancer so bad that the doctor's like, yeah, it's certain that you're gonna die.
Now, as I'm not that familiar with the origins of the character from the comics, aside from, like I said, what other people have told me and what I've Wikipedia'd, I don't know that much, but I could have sworn there was something about his cancer rejecting all treatments at the time, and he was created in the 80s, 90s, where cancer was far less treatable.
Yeah, like, the movie didn't really go too farther into any possible treatments. They just said, nope, this cancer's bad, like, you're gonna die and stuff. But as far as everything else about the character, they got pretty on point. Now, granted, how he activates the mutant gene, like, wasn't exactly like that in the comics. As far as I'm aware, he just gets injected with the super serum, and that combined with his cancer, like, caused a mental break, plus all of his new abilities.
Yeah, because the cancer hit his brain, it was damaging it, whereas they don't really have that in this movie, and since, while they could have the X-Men stuff there, they couldn't really say that, oh no, we're injecting Wolverine stuff. No, they had to do it as, this is his own latent mutant gene, and then just a mutated version of the cancer, because it's his cells, and cancer is already your body's immune and autonomic repair systems just going haywire. So if you have a healing ability, then you kind of have cancer.
Oh, and
just a form that's actually helpful instead of destroying everything.
Oh, yeah, and the way they, like the fourth wall breaking in the movie, I take that as more, it's less of
it's more in his head than...
Like, it's like the other characters are aware that he's talking and pretty much to no one, but it's more like it's his own little world in his head, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like
he's breaking the fourth wall, but it's more of a coping mechanism because, granted, he's not...
Or they're doing the Ferris Bueller thing where they're talking to the audience, and they even reference that in the stinger for the movie. If you don't know what stingers are, they're post-credit scenes. That's the actual word for them.
It is great. Like, it is... Like, I could not see the movie ending in any other kind of way.
If you've kind of seen other reviews of it, you've probably already had it spoiled or referenced, either the written ones or the video ones. They're pretty much reenacting the post-credits scene, but with Deadpool, and saying that if they do get a Deadpool 2, which it's already been greenlit, they're getting Cable. And
Cable's story is a whole other can of worms.
He is the future...
Son of
Scott Summers from a bad future where Apocalypse rules the world, and he's known to people because he has access to time travel tech, and he has a cybernetic arm.
He's like full on 90s, like
proportions, stylization. Like, he was created by Rob Liefeld.
Yeah.
And if you don't know anything about comics, Rob Liefeld
he's not the worst being to ever exist in comics, but think of an artist, this is all for the people who aren't familiar with comics watching this. Rob Liefeld is basically that artist that every time he draws, he gets progressively worse. He has not made one solid piece of artwork in his career. Like, just look up Rob Liefeld's Captain America and, like, look at all the proportions and how wrong everything is.
Yeah, and, well, pretty much every beloved character Rob Liefeld was involved in creating, it's involved and created in quotation marks because other people came in with things and did something interesting with the character. Wade Wilson, for example, is originally Marvel's XP of Slade Wilson from DC Comics, aka Deathstroke, aka the main antagonistic villain from the Teen Titans cartoon series that they just named Slade because they couldn't put Deathstroke in a TV show aimed at all audiences. Yeah. But pretty much they ripped off Deathstroke, Deadpool. Get it? The death reference in the name.
Also, one's a pool, one's a stroke.
Yeah,
like swimming.
Yeah, that too. And pretty much you get all that kind of ripping off without legally ripping off things with how we made characters back in the day. And if you've seen SF Debris' The Rise and Fall of the Comics Empire, they give kind of a breakdown of how terrible his business practices is on top of his art are. And if you watch Atop the Fourth Wall, you kind of know from the reviews of the Youngblood stuff. And pretty much anyone that's into comics kind of has it's a general dislike of the guy, either from his art, his business practices, or just how bad of a writer he is.
Before we get back to Deadpool, it's essentially the one of the few things in the comics world that pretty much 99% of everybody can agree upon. I say 99% because there is some 1% people out there that think Rob Liefeld is like a great artist. I'm not sure who those people are, but I kind of want to meet them just for the sheer curiosity of it all.
He's really enthusiastic about the medium. He's just a really...
He's an asshole.
He's an asshole.
But, so, one thing about Deadpool that works in the film's favor is that the framing device through the first half of the movie, it's what I've never really seen done in a superhero film up until this point.
Yeah, it's the first scene of the movie...
We dropped in media res.
We're dropped in media res, and then as this one scene and all the parts and build-ups and conclusion to it are happening, they have these
interjections of of what occurred before.
Yeah, and it gives us it piece by piece, so they're progressing the main plots while also telling us the backstory that got them to this point. They just don't give it all to you in one shot, and then giving it to you again in full. They stop and start, so you see what the character is now and where they came from, and establish all the relevant players and why Wade is doing this. And it's all very human.
Basically they did the best thing they could have done for Wade Wilson. He is not a selfish prick in this. Everything he does is for the benefit of his girlfriend. Now, was it the smartest decision ever? No, but when you watch the movie, you can totally understand why he would go with that decision. You can probably hate him for it, because he's like, why don't you just confess your feelings, you idiot? But,
yeah, but you see after he has his mutation activated and his skin goes ugly, cancer ugly, that it's not so much that he doesn't want to go back to the woman he loved that he went through this process for. It's just that he's so scared of how she'll respond, and that rejection would break him worse than
any bullet that could have possibly hit him.
Than anything that could have been done to him after.
Because, the way what you just said just made me go, huh. Because Wade Wilson in this movie, he does a lot of killing, he's, leading a life that would...
He's led a horrible life, so it's like he wants this... His love interest for the movie, I'm not sure if she's actually from the comics, I'm not sure if she's an XP of another character, I don't read the comics, I don't know if this was his original girlfriend in the beginning, but this is one of the few good things he has in this life. Nothing compares at all to it. He went through this so he could possibly live and spend however long he still had this with her, so going through all that crap and then not being able to be with her, it's torture for him to not be with her until he can get himself fixed, even if she has to believe he's dead. It's the Bruce Banner Incredible Hulk TV series kind of situation.
Also, I like how small conflict this movie is. We never it's sort of a problem that we never really fully get the full scope of what the bad guys were planning. We get an idea, but for the most part, this event that occurs this movie...
it's personal.
It's very personal. It never will affect anything on a larger scale that we know of. You know what I mean?
That we know of.
Watches in Deadpool 2, they take a jab at how little things cause bigger things to occur. And then Deadpool's just man, so that first movie was just all sequel bait this entire time?
No, that's not the way to sequel bait. The sequel pandering is, when you do it right, is how you build off of that stuff, so it makes narrative sense. But the goal of this here was, the villain was the scientist that did this to him. The evil plot was creating mercenaries with superpowers to do horrible acts.
To be sold off, basically, as slaves that could be controlled and to whoever bought them.
it's making it clear it's bad people. By getting rid of this guy, you're shutting down other stuff that will be worse things to even more people. But the scope of it is focused squarely on Deadpool and his and with Wade and this conflict he has with this guy for essentially taking advantage of his situation.
Oh,
and in the process, he eliminates pretty much everyone that was involved in abusing other people, even if his core motivation was revenge.
Yeah, like he sums it up perfectly in the movie. Deadpool or Wade Wilson is not a good guy or like a hero. He's a bad guy who fucks up even worse guys. Also, this movie had a very small cast. Like, when you actually think about who was in this movie,
I want to say less than a dozen people took focus.
Yeah, like, which is weird in these type of superhero movies. Like most of the time, I'm used to at least 20 different characters being introduced in a movie.
Okay, Wade, Vanessa, Colossus, Super Megasonic Warhead. I think that was her name.
I think there was a Nega you forgot about.
Super.
Let's just say Warhead for short.
Warhead. If I remember correctly, if anyone's seen X-Men Evolution, it was the character of Boom Boom that they just redid here. His friend from the bar.
I don't think he gets a name.
I forgot his name. I think it was mentioned.
Too.
And then Agent Smith, who recruited him, who was only in 2 or 3 scenes. Ajax, a.k.a. Francis, and his Shigo equivalent, because it really was kind of Shigo equivalent, that was super strong, and that's like 8 characters.
Yeah, this movie has another thing going for it in that it is so laser focused. Like, you know,
and I mean, you got secondary supporting stuff of other people throughout it that take a brief focus, like Bob at the end.
Yeah.
Hi, Bob. I haven't seen you since Jacksonville. Yeah, TGI Fridays.
Yeah, it's like, hey, yeah, that's good. Whack.
And I think that's the only person Deadpool didn't kill from.
Yeah, he just knocked him out.
Yeah, but he definitely died from everything that happened after that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because that. Like, yeah.
We're not giving it away.
We're not gonna give away the ending because it was pretty great. Yeah, you know from the first minute of this movie, the first opening scene, as to what this movie wants to be, and you will laugh your butt off.
9. The cab driver. Yeah, 9 focused characters.
It's like, what was that? Nothing.
And again, the cab driver was only in 2 scenes. So.
Yeah, he was only in 2 scenes, but it just a great thing to see that this is what happens when you put a comic book character in the hands of people who genuinely love it.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds definitely redeemed himself for his comic book scripts, and admittedly, most of the comic book scripts were either executive fucked over by people above them.
Yeah, like every time Ryan Reynolds was starred in a bad superhero movie, it was never through the fault of his own that it was.
Not just superhero, comic book movie.
Yeah.
GCPD. Not GCPD. RIPD.
Yeah. But yeah, he definitely redeemed himself with this one. Like,
he wasn't avoiding making fun of those fuck ups too. And since he was involved in the writing process, it's making clear that even he is accepting of that crap. Like, you see a few jabs at Green Lantern. You see jabs at him of them sewing up his mouth, and you see a little action figure of not Deadpool from X-Men Origins.
Yeah, this was a very solid movie all around.
Admittedly, I think there are some people that would have liked those not to be referenced, but when they're calling it out in the best of ways.
What I also want to mention too is that this movie will not be for everybody, and by that I mean what you do see it's very soft R, like he said earlier. But when we were in the theater, I swear 2 other people that were next to us walked out. Yeah, walked out. don't think that's because the movie was bad. It's just I think they were
expecting something completely different.
Yeah, because these days when you hear R and a superhero movie together, you think there's going to be some brief nudity and like...
You think Blade 2.
Yeah, you think Blade 2, but Deadpool is its own brand of R, where it's like the way R should be. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, so you can have those things but not really focus on them.
Right, like, if like they were there...
If you can cut it and give it a lower rating and not have it movie art in the first place, then they didn't need to be there in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's not a movie that needs an R rating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, any final thoughts?
Don't go into this expecting a superhero movie. Yeah. It's a comic book adaptation movie. It's not a superhero movie. Deadpool's not a superhero.
Yeah, Deadpool is not a superhero. He is just, like we said, a bad guy who fucks up even worse guys. And we love him for it.
And we love him for it.
Yeah.
See ya.
See ya.